Clemson basketball has already beaten Kentucky, Duke, and North Carolina this season. Are they blue bloods now? Let's bring in the squad.
You're talking ball with the ACC squad. From Florida State to North Carolina, from Syracuse to Miami, and from NC State to California, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming ACC weekend. Hang on, it could get loud, it could get heated, and it will definitely be fun. Squad up, you're part of the ACC squad.
And what a week it's been for Clemson, and welcome into the ACC squad. I am Alex Dono from Locked On Canes, got a full house today. Jackson Holzer from Locked On Syracuse, Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone from Locked On Wolfpack, JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils, Isaac Shade from Locked On Tar Heels, and Morgan Thomas from Locked On Clemson. Folks, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins at FanDuel. All right, so I mentioned an early season win against Kentucky, but just this past week, the Clemson Hoops team, they beat Duke on Saturday in a great performance, close game, nail-biter, and then a not-so-close game against the Tar Heels, a 20-point blowout where they led by as many as 26. But, man, I'm going to let Morgan from Locked On Clemson, I'll let you buy the first round, and, sir, take a victory lap with the week that your Hoops team is having.
Yes, thank you so much, and appreciate being a part of the show because this is actually my first official squad show here. So I'm glad to be representing. And it's awesome because Clemson coming off, as you mentioned, a huge weekend. Kind of started off the beginning of the weekend a little bit nervous because there was that triple overtime loss. We'll move on with that. And then, heading into the weekend, it's like, man, we're going to face the big, giant, scary JJ and the Dukies down there, and they're going to come to town and they're going to just destroy us because they've got so much more talent than us. But what they didn't factor in is that Little John Coliseum can get really, really rowdy, and we did for sure and brought it to them. And I'll say, for most of the game, Duke was kind of ahead, but we kind of bottled up Cooper Flagg for most of the game, and then he got hot, but then the rest of the team on Clemson's side got hot too. So it was really fun and exciting. And to be honest with you, it was really cool to see Dickie V come back after 2 years, emotional, crying, and to give him a court storming performance from the Clemson Tigers was really awesome, even though secretively we all know he was there for Duke. But it was still very fun to see that. And then to tee it up with Monday night's game with the Tar Heels, we knew the Tar Heels were kind of reeling. They don't really know if they want their coach anymore. Isaac, you can tell me if that's true or not, but they don't really know what they're doing. And I felt like, you just can never keep out the Carolina Blue, right? So you just can't count them out. They are always one of the best teams in the ACC since I was born. But obviously Clemson got out really hot. Victor Locken, our Russian sensation, somehow has found a three-point shot, even though Brad Brownell would ask him to not do that. He goes out there, shoots 4 3-pointers, nothing but net, and has another 22-point game and multiple blocks, just dominating. If he can stay hot, coupled with Chase Hunter, maybe, just maybe, I know it's early February, but maybe they're getting hot at the right time.
Hot at the right time would be an understatement. If you would have told me coming into that Duke game, Duke is going to make 3 times more threes than Clemson, and they're going to shoot 50% from deep, I saw there's no way in hell Clemson wins that ballgame. There's no way in hell, because coming into this, when Donald and I were breaking down again, we talked about the fact that 1 through 5, Clemson's got guys that can knock down the long ball. So if they are struggling from deep, or if you find a way to run them off the three-point line, you've got a shot. And you think number 1 draft pick, another first-round guy, Malawatch, Con Knipple in a year or two, probably going to be a first-rounder, early lottery guy as well.
Next,
I doubt that he's going to be a lottery guy this year. I could be wrong. I don't know. But all in all, I look at this and I say, man, Clemson's got no shot if you look at the game that way. Oh, they're going to play from behind too? Oh yeah, Duke's going to take care of this real easy. Lo and behold, like you said, Brownell and company just kept coming. They just kept coming. There was no quit in that team. They were winning every loose ball. They were diving. They did everything that they possibly could. And a little wet spot might have helped. I'm just saying. A little wet spot might have got Cooper.
Thank you for saying it.
Yeah, legit. Hell of a win for Clemson. And I'll tell you, I think it's interesting. We have a full house. Who do we not have here? Mr. Dalton Pitts. He said, the second in conference conversation might be over if Clemson beats Duke. Now he's not here. He has a scheduling conflict. Suspicious, if you may ask.
I think somebody cut his Wi-Fi. I think it's a Wi-Fi issue with Dalton.
It always is. Now, I look at this, and as I've said, I really do not like the person who said all good things must come to an end, because they're right every single time. And the nation's longest winning streak, unfortunately, had to come to an end this past weekend. It was a Hollywood ending for Dick Vitale to be back there. We know he was there for Duke. Supposed to be there a couple of weeks earlier for the Duke and Wake Forest game. We'll just go to Clemson this time. Lockton has a career day. What Shefflin and Chase Hunter were able to do, creating those extra possessions, was big time. That's where the game was won. Clemson out-rebounding Duke by 13 on the boards, because like we've said, Duke offensively was making their shots from the outside. Proctor goes off for 23. Cooper Flagg wasn't great for the first 35 minutes of this basketball game, but he proved why he's the best player in the entire country, because he willed Duke all the way back and nearly won the game for him. I guess, look, we won't see a perfect season. Hopefully Duke can grab that ACC regular season record by not dropping more than another game or two here on the way out. You got to give your credit to Clemson for the win that they got.
By the way, yeah, that record is 17-3, is the best 20-game record we've had in the 20-game schedule. KG, for what it's worth, Conca-Nipple's a top 10 pick, my dude. So get on them draft boards and look at that. Yeah. Here's the thing, Dono, you let us off in the cold open talking about Clemson and the blue blood status. Yeah, man, they've beaten some blue bloods, but they are not a blue blood.
Can I take this opportunity to do my Russian accent? Because
you have a Russian accent?
Oh, he has a Russian accent. It's an amazing accent.
I got a Russian accent. So, the media was talking about, hey, you guys, you've beaten Kentucky, you've beaten Duke and North Carolina now, and then Victor Lockett says, well, I guess now you say we are blue bloods now here at Clemson. We blue blood. But it's happening. They're putting themselves into that conversation.
No, they're not.
They're a blue blood now.
Like, all due respect to Clemson, right? But I think something was lost in translation for Victor Lockett, and that was the problem with this thing. He didn't understand, and he thought everybody was saying, "Are you guys just really good this year for a little bit of time?" And he was like, "Yeah, I think we're there." No, look, Clemson is a very solid basketball team. There is probably a list of 15 to 20 schools that would be in the blue blood conversation before we'd get to Clemson that are not yet there. And like Morgan's nodding along with that. That's not sour grapes or anything because Carolina lost. It's just the fact of the matter. That's the craziest thing I heard since I read on Tuesday that apparently we're going to rename Greenland Red, White, and Blue Land or some crap like that. That's what we're talking about here. And so all due respect to Victor Lockett, man, but also, was he serious when he said this, or was it tongue in cheek?
I read an article saying he was joking.
Okay, that was my assumption as well. Yeah.
They're not a blue blood. I mean, they don't have. I mean, they could change this year, but they've never even made a Final Four. You don't have one Final Four in your program history, but now all of a sudden you
start there
one year and you beat Duke another year. Like, now you're a blue blood. Hold on a second. I think their coach said it best, that they're a blue blood slayer. That they've been beating the blue bloods this season. They've beaten Carolina. They've beaten Duke. They beat Kentucky. So in that regard, I agree with you. I mean, they're beating all these traditional powers, but that doesn't make them a traditional power. I mean, think about UConn for a moment. We now recognize UConn as a blue blood. That took forever. And they have a much better history. Think about other programs that aren't blue bloods. Like, do people really think Indiana's a blue blood? Do people think
anymore?
Really? No, they're not.
What?
No. Okay. Here's the debate with this.
Louisville is debatable. We can't talk about Clemson.
What are we talking about right now?
What about because I mentioned before the show, pre-show, I lumped in Syracuse as a blue blood, and the host of Locked On Syracuse said no.
Absolutely not.
No. What are you smoking?
We got one national title. We got 6 Final Fours.
Blue blood status is not. Blue blood status isn't as fluid as we're making it here. Blue blood, either you are one or you are not. You can be a blue blood that is currently going through a down period, which Indiana is, but they are absolutely. You cannot write the story of college basketball without meaningfully saying, hey, Indiana was very important for these decades. What are we doing here?
Are you sure?
Yeah, and that's the conversation people have is it's like salvation. Can you lose it, right? Like, is blue blood status something that can be revoked? Like, are Indiana and UCLA still blue bloods? And I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying that's the conversation people have. Is it something that you've got for life once you achieve it, or can a couple decades of suckery take it away from you?
You know, that's a good point, because I think about this in football terms, and like Nebraska, like they obviously they had their day, and some people would say this about Miami as well, but I don't. Nebraska, to me, they were a blue blood in football at one time. Anymore, I don't know.
Are we really doing this today? Thank God the Midwestern guys on this show. What are we doing right now? Nebraska is objectively a blue blood in football. Yes, they've had decades down. Absolutely. Would I argue, hey, they're one of the better blue bloods right now? No, hell no. They got a guy that's cosplaying Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. It's very weird. But with that in mind, you can't argue that a team what Tom Osborne did there, what the greatest, they were what Notre Dame is now. They were that in the past for a very long time. And even beyond that, because many people still argue that what was it, 95 or 96 team was the greatest of all time. What are we doing here? We are just revoking people's blue blood status all Willard-nillard? This is crazy.
My problem is that I get so caught up in their school colors, right? We're calling blue bloods for Indiana or Clemson or whatever. And
Clemson football has a better case.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
they do have a case. They absolutely do have a case. Again, they earned their way in.
From Clemson's standpoint, obviously, as you mentioned, Jackson, it was definitely in jest. I watched the post-game press conference with Victor Locken, and he kind of was smiling the entire time he said it. So it's not realistic that we would think that. But I will say it's indicative of the team and the culture that they have right now. They're excited, they're joking, they're confident, and it feels good for me as a fan to watch the next 6 games unfold, and potentially the ACC tournament, and hopefully into the NCAA tournament. So I think this team is really gelled right now. They're locked in, and I look forward to seeing what they can continue to do. Obviously, the joke about blue bloods is not really very accurate for Clemson in basketball terms. And even in football terms, as you guys have mentioned, it takes a lot of time to just be able to build that up. I would even say I can understand where you're coming from Indiana's standpoint, because Indiana is one of those basketball teams that was really good kind of like when I was a baby, right, in the 80s. And then, if you're going to say that the Huskies have UConn have taken that, I almost think that they would not just earn it, but maybe almost kind of taken the baton from Indiana, because the UConn is now like the 2020s type of blue blood. So it seems like, it ebbs and flows in college basketball. I think it does the same in college football, because you're looking now, who knows, man, what happens when my daughter is 20, 25 years old? Will she still say that Alabama is like the legendary team that it once was? Because remember, in the 90s, Alabama wasn't a team anybody feared. So I do think it's cyclical. It's interesting how it goes, but there are definitely those teams I have on my list of Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina. I would probably, I don't even know. I almost wanted to say Michigan State, but I'm going to take that back, because they kind of
say the word Kansas. Say the word Kansas.
I will say Kansas. Yes, Kansas is up there for sure. I can't forget about them. Louisville. Louisville and Syracuse, I think they have a good argument as well.
Hey, here's one thing I will say that I love that's happened for Clemson lately is there was like a 5-year stretch where Brad Brownell was the perennial hot seat guy. That conversation's over, and I'm really glad for Coach Brownell for that. He is cemented in for Clemson, and that's good news for the Tigers.
Brownell later on in this episode, he was hanging on to Gabe DeVoe's amazing Sweet 16 performance. Now that's the thing of the past. He is definitely locked in for long term.
Well, it's especially great we have Morgan with us, because we do want to talk some ACC football later on, and Clemson are the odds-on favorites. I did check FanDuel this morning to win the next ACC championship, but we'll continue the hoops conversation because, we've been talking about Duke all season long, but who else in the ACC could possibly surge into the NCAA tournament and surge through that tournament? You want to keep it locked right here? We got the squad together on Locked On ACC. Oh, and the squad loves them some FanDuel, as I certainly do. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, I love doing that, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the ACC Squad. Make sure for your next listen, you check out all of our other shows. We have a lot of them represented today. Locked on Syracuse, Locked on Wolfpack, Locked on Clemson, Locked on Tar Heels, Locked on Blue Devils. So we do have some blue bloods in here from a college basketball sense. But folks, we talk about, peaking at the right time, and Clemson seems to be doing that. I'll let whoever wants to take this, maybe Isaac Shade, the host of Locked on College Basketball. Do you look at a team like Clemson as one that can, if NC State could do it last year through the NCAA tournament, shouldn't have even really been there. They got in. Can a team like Clemson make a run?
They absolutely can, but not in the same breath as what we said about NC State, because without the ACC tournament run, NC State's not sniffing the NCAA tournament. Honestly,
and
right
that's
now,
what I meant, fellas. I was getting some dirty looks from Kenton and Grace. That's what I meant. It was an improv.
Yeah, Dono, we can step outside after this recording if you want to. You know what I mean? We can handle it that way. But proceed.
No, honestly, forgive me for the shot I'm about to take. NC State's just got to worry about making the ACC tournament this year. And so the thing is with Clemson, it's not just could they go on a run. They've really, I was coming into this year, PJ Hall's gone. Who is this team going to be? Can they find something in the front court? And Victor Locken is a completely different five than PJ Hall was. But man, that combo of him with what Ian Shefflin brings to the table, I tell you, who's been a little bit of a revelation for them is Jaden Zachary. He was great on a not good Boston College team, but he's been such a calming floor general for this team. Here's the other thing I really like about what Clemson has done right now is Chauncey Wiggins was sick this weekend, didn't start the game against Duke. Instead, Dylan Hunter was inserted into the starting lineup alongside his brother. And I actually think that makes Clemson a better team, even though it takes some of that size away, where they were starting 6'10 and a half, 6'8, 6'11 and a half across 3, 4, and 5 there. But I love the Hunter brothers together, along with Jaden Zachary, Locken, and Shefflin. The chef, man, he's always cooking. I love that starting five. And I think Clemson could be in really good shape. As you said, they've kind of vaulted Louisville back into that conversation to be the number 2 ACC squad. And I absolutely think they could make some NCAA tournament noise.
We're to the point where it feels like I've got to take the losses from the Duke perspective to bump up everyone else within the conference. What are we doing? What are we doing at this point where everybody else is at this point where it doesn't matter who you beat unless you beat Duke so far this year because of the way the rest of the league is gone? That's crazy. I never thought we'd be in this position, but here I am, guys. I've got to take these losses so that there could be more teams from the ACC that could possibly join me in the big dance.
What a gracious group of guys you and John Shire are. What a gracious group.
They're handing out wins.
They're handing out wins.
Anyone worthy of a win gets a win.
But I will say this. If you talk about teams that are going to make the tournament out of ACC who could make a run, all of them can. All of them can. You know why all of them can? What matters in tournament play? Guard play and experience. Those are the two things that everybody says, hey, if you have those two things in droves, you can find your way into that Cinderella type of territory. Does Louisville not have both of those? They've got their starting point guard has one of the best assist to turnover ratio. Yeah, Hepburn has one of the best assist to turnover ratios in the conference. Does Clemson not have those in spades? We're talking about Victor Locken. We're talking about the Boston College transfer. We're talking about a backcourt that can shoot that blood out of the damn ball. Can Duke do that? They're expected to. Nobody would even be surprised by Duke making a run because, like JJ said, they are elite. So any ACC team that makes it can make a run. And also, have we not learned this lesson? I feel like that episode of SpongeBob where they're like, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Because the ACC keeps being down. It keeps being worse here in a while. It keeps being, well, all the metrics show, and then we get to the tournament. And when we get on that line, when the ball tips off, all of a sudden you're looking up, well, where the hell are all these ACC teams coming for all these wins? So any ACC team that makes it has a shot based on the history and based on what I'm seeing right now.
I just want to know why Clemson in the latest bracketology is projected only as a 7 seed.
I saw that.
How does that make any sense?
Yeah.
I mean, because you could sit here and tell me, well, they play in a weak conference. Sure, but they've beaten Duke and Kentucky, and they're 20-5. Can someone please explain how that's only a 7? Like, they should be a 5 or better. It makes no sense. I mean, does anyone have an explanation for it? Anyone?
I'm not the bracketology guy, so I'm a shut up and be quiet. Let Isaac take this.
It's mostly strength of schedule stuff. When you look at Clemson's record, not record, but strength of record, there's not the same level. They are up to 26 at KenPom. They were like 40th in the net. Do you know where you guys are as of like Tuesday, Wednesday, Morgan? I hadn't looked.
The net, they're 27th. I just checked.
Yeah, in the net. So that's a nice bump up. But yeah, I mean, the loss to South Carolina hurts, although that's away, so you'll take that. But in terms of great wins, Clemson doesn't have a great strength of schedule from that, like in the non-con slate. And then there's just, because of what the ACC collectively did, that hurts both Clemson and Duke's resume. And that's just, again, us getting dumped on as a conference because of the perception of where things are, because once the non-con is said, it doesn't matter what you do in conference, unless you're beating Duke this year, the way it looks, you can't get a good win. There's only so many quad 1, quad 2 opportunities.
So every team,
they beat Kentucky, though. That's the only issue that I have with that. They beat,
what? Say it again, Jackson.
They beat Kentucky.
I was just about to say, does every team in front of them, in terms of the 6 seeds and better, all have wins against a Duke and Kentucky caliber program right now? Am I crazy?
First off, Kentucky's in a bad spiral right now. They've lost like 4 out of 6. And so, like, let's kind of put that one aside. It's still a good win, but it's kind of taken some dents lately. And no, not everyone above them has that single caliber win, which that's a massive feather in Clemson's cap. But the other conferences are so loaded that it's more about quantity rather than singular quality for these other teams.
Well, when we come back here on Locked On ACC, we'll shift gears to some football. And that, by the way, Isaac is waxing poetic and flexing on this hoops knowledge. And I know we can do that about football as well. Actually, North Carolina, one of those teams that's got their win total out there on FanDuel, along with 3 others in the ACC. We will break it down. Who's going to win the conference? Who's going to win 10 or more games? You want to keep it locked right here to the squad. Thank you so much for making the ACC squad your first listen and your first watch today. Make sure you also check out Locked On College Basketball. I mean, you heard Isaac's breakdown on the bracketology. You can hear that stuff every single day with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton on Locked On College Basketball, available free wherever you get your podcasts, available free on YouTube. All right, so guys, I'm looking, and you guys know I love making those wagers at FanDuel.com. And we already have a handful. They're kind of releasing these in stages, football win totals, over-unders for next year. A handful of ACC teams have their numbers out, including Clemson, Louisville, Miami, and North Carolina. Now, unsurprisingly, Clemson has the highest of those win totals at 9.5, and the Tigers are favored to win the ACC this coming season. Miami and Louisville are at 8.5, and North Carolina, Isaac, they come in at 7.5. So there's some faith in Coach Belichick to maybe win 8 or more games in his first season in Chapel Hill. There is.
I swear to you, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I am going the way that I'm going to light up that Belichick pack and smoke it when them boys get when they get the wheels whooped off them against NC State once again. Oh, it is going to be a joyous day. But I will say this. Isaac was talking about this pre-show, and I need to talk about it here. FanDuel ain't stupid. They're about the money, the Skrilla, the greenbacks. And you know what gets that? Coaches that get attention, players that get attention. You know, you remember a few years ago when Trae Young's Oklahoma team made the NCAA tournament when everybody knew they had no business. How'd they end up there? The money, the odds, the attention. That's the same way they ended up with odds on FanDuel. Because, again, who is their quarterback? Who is going to be throwing the football over there? It could be Isaac for all we know. You know, like I am genuinely looking at this team saying, yes, please get them more press clippings, get them more belief, get them more hype. You know, we just put one William out of his misery in very bad fashion over here in Raleigh. We're ready to do it to another one. And this William just happens to date a 24-year-old. So at least he's going to have a young lady at home to help him recover and lick his wounds.
Yeah, hey, did y'all say real quick? Did you see that picture of her wearing that Falcon shirt from the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Was she even alive when that game was played?
I'm not sure. 10. I'm not sure. I'm sure Bill Belichick's girlfriend is barely old enough to know a world where UNC beats NC State in football. So that's just how young that girl is. But
we got to save this clip for if NC State actually loses. We really got to save it. We just got to play it on repeat. It would become the ACC SQUAD national anthem if that happens.
This is me rolling up that Belichick pack. This is me rolling it up. This is me rolling the Belichick pack up because I'm ready. I'm ready. We all thought.
I don't care what happens in that game, but now I kind of do. I kind of want to see Carolina win this.
You should. Yeah. I know who you are, Jackson. You're my foil. You are that guy for me. I know it. I know it. When I wake up and want to go right, something in you says left is the right direction because I know that about you, Jackson. But in all, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Dono, to answer your question, Carolina's schedule is pretty stinking easy, and so from that regard, yeah, they could hit 8. But it's not about, I mean, they might turn out to be really good because in the transfer portal era, you can flip things in a hurry. It's probably easier with basketball because you just need like 2 or 3 dudes to hit, and that's it. Obviously, you need more breadth and depth in football to make that happen. But I think if Carolina hits that over, it might be the Belichick of it all. But I think the schedule is going to have a ton to do with that if we're being honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking at their schedule right now. I mean, their toughest game, I mean, yeah, they got to play Clemson, but outside of that, it seems like every game is somewhat winnable to an extent. You're not going to win every single game. Like you're not running the table outside of Clemson, but can they get to 8 wins with that schedule? Yeah. Who's their second toughest game? Who is it?
I'm honestly surprised that we haven't seen the Florida State Seminoles under over pop up yet, because I mean I'm sure that's going to be a big draw.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know what's funny? So we can take a guess at that, because here's what we do have. Odds for Florida State to win the ACC, and we can kind of read between the lines to figure out what the over-under is going to be. And by the way, they don't have an over-under yet for SMU, which is interesting because SMU is going to be one of like the top 4 favorites to win the conference. So you got Louisville and Miami 8.5, Clemson 9.5, UNC 7.5. But I'm also, guys, on FanDuel, I'm looking at the odds to win the ACC. Clemson is a plus 270 favorite. They have Miami second at plus 310. They have SMU third at plus 440. So I would guess SMU's over-under is going to be 8.5, same as Miami and Louisville, because then you have Louisville at plus 500, Georgia Tech at plus 1,300. And then how about this? They give Florida State actually the 6th best odds to win the ACC at plus 1,600. So I was figuring maybe their win total would be about 5.5, but maybe it's 7.5, because they actually have better odds to win the ACC than North Carolina do, which kind of surprises me, given North Carolina's schedule.
That's FanDuel saying we don't want to get killed just in case Florida State lives up to its name. If you have them too low, then every single person is going to bet up on Florida State. If you have them at plus, 4,000 or plus 3,500 with Virginia Tech, you're going to get a lot of Florida State fans hitting those odds. And then if you put Florida State's over-under at 4.5 or 5.5, if they live up to their name, they're going to be bowl eligible at minimum. So this is kind of FanDuel being smart. They're hedging their bet here, and that's why they're putting them so high.
Donna, no faith in Manny Diaz? Is that what I'm hearing? Is there a reason you no Duke, no
apparently not, because let me keep going down the list. So Florida State at plus 1,600 with the 6th best odds. Then you get UNC at plus 2,000, and then you get Duke. So that would give them the 8th best odds. To me, honestly, you could probably flip Florida State and Duke, and I could live with that. But Jackson made a good point as to why Florida State is where they are.
Let me tell you something. If Florida State is at 7.5, y'all going to turn me into a degenerate. Get me my cigarettes and get me my subscription to Russian table tennis, because I need to get in on this betting action.
With Dono announcing.
Exactly. With Dono doing the announcing, because I'm telling you right now, 7.5 for Florida State, I'm fading that under all day, yesterday, tomorrow. As a matter of fact, get the flash in here so we can go back in time and I can fade it up twice. I am telling you right now, Florida State did great things in the portal, sure. But again, they have a
I got a flux capacitor here for you, so we can go back.
Please do. Let's hop in the DeLorean. Let's me and the doc go ahead and make sure that we get extra money on Florida State under 7.5 next year.
Hey, Dono, can you help me? I must have had trouble hearing. Where were the Wolfpack on that list? I didn't catch their odds yet.
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Hold on. I got to click the show more button on FanDuel.com.
Okay.
At least Wolfpack have odds right now.
Hey, Isaac, how's your man William doing? How's William Brown doing? He all right? He good in retirement? Y'all make sure he's straight, because it didn't look good. It didn't look good last time we saw him. His team got whooped on the field.
Let me tell you the rest so we can get down to NC State. So I mentioned Duke has the 8th best odds at plus 3,000. Then Virginia Tech plus 3,500. Then Syracuse at 10th plus 5,000. Then Cal at 11th at plus 6,500. NC State tied for 11th with Cal at plus 6,500. You know what, Kenton? If we turn you into a degenerate, if you put $100 on NC State and you kind of forget about that after like 7-8 months, and then they win the ACC, you got 6,500 in your account.
Let me tell you something. Do I believe in NC State to win the conference outright? Absolutely not. No, that's not where this program is right now. But
do I believe in them to win on Thanksgiving weekend? Yes,
absolutely. Hell yeah. Let me explain something to you. I just was talking about the fact that I got 10 nephews and nieces. 2 of them just born. We love you. Knox and Kenzie, super excited to meet you. Now, with that being said, half of them don't know a world. Half of y'all kids who have kids up here don't know a world where UNC beats NC State in football. So Bill Belichick's girlfriend barely knows of a world, just barely by about 3 days knows of a world where that happens. So, I'm comfortable with that game. Now, NC State winning the conference overall, hold on, buddy. Not that much of a degenerate yet, but I might think about it. Those are pretty good odds.
We'll get you there.
I think about it. FanDuel, thank you for the $100.
The all-time series records got a little too close lately with these 4 straight wins for NC State. Now it's down to Carolina 68 wins, NC State 40. It's a little too close for comfort.
Oh boy! Now we're talking about the game where people who look like me weren't even allowed in the school, and the helmets were soft. Oh boy!
We're going backwards.
We can go backwards to the pandemic. We can go backwards to the invention of the iPhone. We can go backwards to the 2000s. Either way, as long as you make sure that the schools are integrated, it doesn't work out too well for UNC. It doesn't work out too well for y'all boys. Sorry to tell you.
I don't know where we go from here, so this is probably a good time to wrap it up. It's a tremendous. I always have such a great time with you guys. Tremendous job as always. Jackson Holzer from Locked On Syracuse, Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone from Locked On Wolfpack. A huge welcome to Morgan Thomas from Locked On Clemson. So happy to have him aboard the channel and the squad. JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils, Isaac Shade from Locked On Tar Heels and Locked On College Basketball. Check those shows out, and we'll talk to everyone next time on another episode of The Squad right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.